How's it going? This is Josh at Edge Knife Works. I'm going to do a video today doing a review on these new super wheels from Pop's Knife Supply. I've got a couple on my buffer here in front of me, and I've got a batch of knives here that's ready for the final polish on the handles. And that's really what these wheels are best for. They're a silicon carbide flap wheel, so they've got a good amount of give to them. They're kind of soft. They are great for the final polish on the handles. These have all been taken up to a 320 grit belt. Scratches are more or less lengthwise. There's still some cross scratches in them, and these are going to get that out. So saves you a lot of time hand sanding. I've used these on a couple of knives now, but this is going to be the first batch that I use them on. So we'll do a time lapse while I'm working through the knives. I'll probably have some audio over that talking about the wheels and everything else and just thought process, and then we'll come back at the end.
All right, so we're gonna get started on the first knife here. I like to start by going around the perimeter of the handle, and then I'll hit the top spine. And then you'll see in a second when I move to the inside radius, I'm using the edge of the wheel and I'm tilting the knife so I can get into that finger well. And then I'll switch over and start polishing the flats and blending it all together. These wheels do a great job of conforming to your handles. They're kind of dished in the middle and they're fairly soft, so it's easy to work around different curves and contours. The first knife was a canvas handle, and this second one's a paper micarta. It does fairly well, even on some harder to finish materials. You just have to make sure that you're using light pressure and going slow. And these wheels are saving me a lot of time on hand finishing these handles, especially some of the paper micartas. Depending on what grit you sand them to, they can be fairly difficult to get a nice clean finish. Usually they like to go up to a fairly high grit. All of these handles were shaped and sanded up to 320 and then straight over to the 600 super wheel to buff and smooth out the 320 finish. If you were going to take these to a buffing wheel to get a high polish, that's where you might want to take them up to a little bit finer finish on the handles. But I find that the 320 leaves a good amount of grip, and then the 600 super wheel smooths everything out. All right, and I'm probably going to cut the video after this recording and just jump ahead to the finish so that you can see how the knives turned out with the 600 grit super wheel. But just to kind of recap, overall these were great to use on this batch. They made the finishing a lot smoother and easier, and was a lot more comfortable than trying to take these up to a perfectly clean finish by hand or on the grinder. The wheels saved me time from having to switch attachments to get into different areas, and overall they're going to last much better than your typical sanding belts will. So I'm looking forward to using these in the production shop, and definitely something I would recommend. So that said, we'll probably cut the video here. You don't need to watch me go through every knife. In total, it took about 13 minutes to go through this batch of knives. I had about 10 to 12 knives total, so you figure it took maybe a minute per knife on the super wheel, which is pretty quick, especially when you consider how much time hand finishing takes.
All right, so we just finished up all of the handles, going through and polishing these on the super wheels from Pop's Knife Supply. We'll walk through some of these. I used this on a variety of materials to kind of show the versatility in finishing. So that first piece was a paper micarta This is a canvas. This next two are both some really unique paper. So this is like a pinstripe material. I actually picked this up from Alan at Blade Show, and it's very difficult to sand and finish. And those super wheels just do a really good job. All you need is a light touch on them. You don't need to like bear into them or anything. I've got them on a fixed speed buffer. A variable speed or a low speed would probably work even better. Here's some cheddar micarta. And again, I've got the finish going lengthwise around the entire perimeter of the knife. Let's see, we got some more of that mustard paper. Here's some canvas linen, some of the vintage stuff that Pops has. Some of the, again, some more vintage linen. It smooths out all those lines really well. It really made the finishing on these handles very quick and simple to get a nice polish. Here's some of the tricolor. And then this one was really a test along with some of the paper micarta. White linen or white variants are some of the toughest to finish and get a nice clean look. And again, the Super Wheel did a phenomenal job of leaving a really nice, smooth, even finish. There's no debris or anything that's kind of trapped in the pores. It's left a nice, bright finish on that material. Does a good job, again, of smoothing out those lines, get everything really cleaned up. So overall, I'm a big fan of the Super Wheels. This was the first full batch trying them out, and it did great. It saved me a lot of finishing time. Made it where I didn't need to go through and do a whole lot of hand sanding or hand finishing on some of those more difficult materials like I normally would have to. So make sure to check them out at Pop's Knife Supply. They seem like they're gonna last really well. I think Andy's commented that he's used a set for about 6 months, and they're still going strong. So, you know, it's a great investment for upping your game on your finishing for your handles. And you can go over your blades as well. If you take the Super Wheel, and if you've got a hand sanded finish lengthwise, you could go over that with the Super Wheel to get some of those stop and start marks out and just get everything really smooth and consistent. I've been using the 320 to kind of do a once over on some of my hollow grinds after the blade's done, just to kind of get any fingerprints and whatnot off. They're very versatile for finishing work. Definitely not for deburring. They're a little too soft. It'll tear them up if you're trying to deburr hard edges. But if you're using them for polishing contours and doing the final finish on your blades or handles, they do a great job at that. So again, check them out. Pop's Knife Supply, Super Wheels. Everybody should have a set. They just make the handle finishing process so much easier. So have a great day. Thank you.